Hey guys, welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I am a homeschooling mama to a rising first grader and rising third grader for this upcoming school year 2025 to 2026. And in my last video, I went over with you guys all of the different pieces of curriculum and the components that we are putting together to create my third graders language arts. And from that video, I got a lot of requests to dig in a little bit further with one component of that, which is the writing component. And we are using writing and rhetoric for that component. So this video is going to be all about writing and rhetoric. Specifically, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a peek inside and flip through of Writing and Rhetoric, Book 1, Fables. But I'm also going to talk about the entire program, explain the why behind it, how they do it, what a week will look like for writing for us, because we did try out the sample and we actually have gotten a chance to do this a little bit and we really like it. So I'll talk to you guys about that and answer, of course, any questions that you guys have after this video is posted down in the comments, because you guys know I love chatting with you down there. But so this video is going to be all about writing and rhetoric. So if that is what you were here for, stay tuned. So first off, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about writing and rhetoric. So it is a classical writing program. It's produced by Classical Academic Press, and it is technically supposed to be a 6-year writing program. You're supposed to do 2 books every year, so 12 books in all. I'll actually flip this around and show you. This is what the entire program looks like. So right here, we're down here. We're starting with Fables. That's book 1. And then we're also going to do narrative 1, which is book 2. And then we would do these 2 the following year, and then these 2 the following year, and so on and so on and so on. And what this is built upon is the classical notion of the progymnasmata. That is quite the mouthful, and I feel pretty impressed with myself that I can actually say it. Now, rather than me trying to explain to you in my own terms what the progymnasmata is, I'm actually going to read briefly to you this quick snippet about what it is from the book. So the Romans in the Greek-speaking part of the empire called their writing system the progymnasmata. This strange mouthful of a word derives from the same root for exercise as do gymnasium and gymnastics. So essentially it means preliminary exercises. The goal of these lessons is to prepare the students for rhetoric, which is the art of writing well and speaking persuasively. This method assumes that students learn best by reading excellent examples of literature and by growing their skills through imitation. Successful writers study great writing. Successful orators study great speeches. And that is so true, y'all. Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, all of them, any kind of great writer that you know, studied other great writers. Shakespeare, right? They found people in their field, in their niche, and they would copy work everything that they wrote. Imitation is the best form of flattery, but it's also the best way to become really good at what you want to be good at and an expert. So that's what this system is predicated upon. So it is, just so you know, physical books. They do not offer a PDF version. And if you've been around my channel for any amount of time, you know that makes me kind of sad, because I love a PDF, because then I can print it out as many times as I need to for my 2 kiddos and save a little money. But alas, it does not allow for that. But I will tell you, it has 2 books per book. So you have a student guide and then you have a teacher guide. This is non-consumable. So you can sell this later date. You can use again for your other kiddo and just get one of the student books. But something else you can do instead of writing in the student book, you can make it a non-consumable by writing the answers in a separate spiral notebook. That's entirely at your discretion how you want to use the program. Me personally, just for the sake of ease and convenience, I am going to have my oldest daughter, Emery, write inside this notebook. And then when it's my youngest daughter's turn to delve into writing and rhetoric, I'll go ahead and just buy her a new book. It'll be fine. I save a lot of money in other ways, printing out our other curriculum, that it's okay. We can buy 1 consumable workbook per year. It'll be okay. But so just so you know, they only have the print option. You can get it directly from Classical Academic Press, which I'll link down below. You can get it from Rainbow Resource, christianbook.com. I think Amazon even has them. There's a plethora of places you can find. You can price shop. I found this actually, I think, the cheapest at christianbook.com. I'll link that link down below so you can see what I found. But It is still not a terrible price if you buy it directly from Classical Academic Press. I think for 2 books, I think it's just under the $100 mark, but I think I might have gotten it for around $85. So I think for a writing program, a really solid one like this, I think that is not a bad price, especially when you can reuse the teacher guide and all you have to buy every year is a new student guide if you have multiple kids. Or like I said, if you want to, you can do a spiral notebook, you can photocopy the pages, you can get thrifty with this if you need to, trust me, and I'm all about thriftiness. So now that we've talked about what the writing program is predicated upon, the progymnasmata, as well as the logistics of the actual program, let's get this camera turned around and let's get into the actual books so that you can see what an actual week looks like, how it's set up, what actually is all involved in this, because it's not just writing, y'all. There's also vocab in here. You're doing copy work, narration, there's some grammar. There's a lot that goes into this. This is a really solid, well done program that builds really, really well on itself. That's what I love, is how well it builds year upon year to then ultimately, by the time you get into high school, you should have really solid writers and theoretically really good speakers, because they also do auditory exercises. It's not just writing, you're actually learning how to speak properly. So I think this is such a solid curriculum. I found it about, I don't know, a little bit over a year ago, and I was like, oh, this is it. I know we're going to do this in 3rd or 4th grade. This is the ticket for us for writing. So I'm going to stop rambling. Let's get this camera flipped around and let's look into this book. All right, y'all, here are the 2 books that you will need to complete the first half of the first year of writing and rhetoric. You have your teacher's guide and then you have your student guide. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit in between both of them, but the reality is that the teacher's guide is everything that the student guide is, plus some. So for the sake of this video and to reduce any confusion, we're going to mostly look inside here, and then I'll briefly show you a flip through in here to show you how it's the same as this, but this just has the answers for the teacher. So before we hop into the program, I do want to flip it around. I want to go back through this pyramid that I showed you guys previously before we flip the camera around. This is the entire writing and rhetoric program. It's all 6 years. So the first 2 years you would do Fables and Narrative 1. So it can be 3rd grade to 4th grade. You can do those 2. Narrative 2, and then Crea and Proverb would be your 2nd year. Refutation and Confirmation along with Commonplace would be your 3rd year. I'm going to say this wrong, Encomium and Vituperation, as well as Comparison, are your 4th year. Description, Impersonation, as well as Thesis Part 1 would be your 5th year, and then your final year would be Thesis Part 2 and Declamation, and that would land you finishing up with either grade 8 or grade 9. So if you follow this schedule as stated and you start in grade 3, you'll be done in grade 8, which will allow you then to go into high school, and you can either follow along with the Classical Academic Press Rhetoric High School program, which is Rhetoric Alive, or you can move on to something else if you want to try a different writing program like IEW or something else. If you start in 4th grade, then you will finish up after in your freshman year, and then so sophomore year you'd have to come up with something different. So as I had read to you before, the progymnasmata is preliminary exercises. That's what it means for writing. And it's something that builds on itself. So you are building year over year on top of each of these different types of writing to ultimately you get to a point where you're able to do thesis as well as declamation, which is more rhetoric focused. So now that we have an idea of what the overall program looks like, let's look at that first half of that first year, which is Fables. And this is perfect. Fables are really good to start out your younger children with, 3rd, 4th graders, good morals or values that come from the moral of the story, right, for a fable. But they're also kind of fun. They involve a lot of animals, so they're very engaging for a child. So I think Fables is the perfect first one to start with. So getting to the book, let's look at the table of contents. So this first book has 14 lessons or 14 weeks, a lesson you do over an entire week. Book 2, which is Narrative 1, has 10 lessons. So when you combine those together, you have 24 weeks worth of lessons for your first year. So if you follow a 36-week schedule like I do, my plan is to do 2 weeks straight through of writing and rhetoric, and then the third week we won't do any writing and rhetoric. We'll just take a break. So 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, which perfectly gets you through 36 weeks, and you're completing all of the lessons in this book and in the second book. So here, I'm just going to let you guys look briefly at the table of contents. And we're going over different things like anthropomorphism, amplification. Here we go. Here's the back half of it. Understanding a main idea, adding to a fable. And then here you'll see they have what they recommend you should do for your schedule for the week. So theoretically, they have this where you could do it in either 4 or 3 days. When we did the sample and we trialed this out before I purchased the book, because you can get the sample and print it off and try it yourself, we did it in 3 days, and that was plenty of time. I could see as we get more into the program, maybe later in the year or even next year, maybe needing that 4th day for more brainstorming time for the writing and the speaking, etc. But right now, 3 days is perfect for us. That's all we need. And so it talks about how day 1, what you're going to do is you're going to read the fable, which is in the book. You don't have to buy any other books. You're going to read the text aloud to your child so that they can understand the fluency of how it should be read. And then they can model it back to you by reading the fable back to you. And then after that, you will then go into the tell it back section, which I'll show you in a second here, which is basically narration. Then you will do the exercises that are under the talk about it section. And this also can include the narration. There can be comprehension questions, things like that. You could even do some play acting of the story to help with the memory. That actually, a lot of kids who are kinetic learners, play acting is really good, whether they do it themselves or they use little pawns to play act out the narration. And then day 1, you will finish up by doing the going deeper section. This is vocabulary, talking about main ideas, character traits, parts of the stories, things like that. And then day 2, you can either, this is optional. I went ahead and had my daughter reread it because it helps with reading, right? But also with fluency, like that speaking part. So you can have your child read the text again, or you can read it back to them. And then this is where you do the exercises under the writing time section. This is very open and go. It's very easy the way they have it created for you. And then day 3 is additional wrap up of the writing portion. And then after they've done their writing, then they speak it. They are going to say it back to you. That's where that oration practice, becoming a really good orator happens. So then they have a little, hey, we're going to read this to you. We're going to be getting writing and rhetoric. This is to the student. Again, a little bit of a review of the overall program, so you can take a look at that. And then this is really good for the parent. Read this. This is where I was reading that bit about the progymnasmata, where it talks about being preliminary exercises. This is the why behind the program. This is understanding how it works, why it works, what is to be done. Imitation is a foundation for learning writing. That's why we're going to imitate all these great works over the 6 years that you do the program, so that then you can become an expert writer, really good at making persuasive arguments in writing as well as speaking. And that is the whole point of this. I'm so excited about this. But go to the sample page. Seriously, if you're even considering this, go to the sample page, because this isn't the sample. Read this, 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 and this. And you'll be sold, and you'll be like, okay, give me all the books. I'm buying all of them. Now, here they talk about best foot forward, why the understanding, again, more about understanding the progymnasmata and how that equates to modern writing. And then here, how it develops each stage of the modern composition. So the first year we're doing fable and narrative with descriptive elements. The next year we'll do crea, refutation. So doing expository essays with narratives. Coming down here, all the way up here, you'll be finishing up with thesis and then declamation. So declamation, your final year, you're doing a persuasive essay or speech that marshals all the elements of progymnasmata, and brings them to bear upon judicial matters. So you can actually speak intelligently, create a really good argument. That is the point of this. Now then it talks about what is the objectives for the fable, this book, right? What are we going to learn here? So expose students to the form of fables as well as culturally important examples, model fluent reading for students and give them practice reading short texts. That's great for this age level. Give students practice copying text accurately. That's where that copy work comes in. We love copy work around here. Strengthen working memory through dictation. Increase understanding of the flexibility and copiousness of language through sentence manipulation. So being able to tweak and edit sentences to create a difference in the language. And then facilitate student interaction with well-written texts. We want to obviously give them good, rich literature, and then gives them the opportunity to creatively imitate sentences. Imitation is the best form of flattery, as well as the best way to become an expert. And then introduce the concepts of the main idea and character traits within writing. So, I mean, this is going to be such a good language arts program, y'all. I'm so excited. So here is lesson 1. Let's talk about it. So, just so you know, since this is the teacher's edition, everything you see here is what's in the student book. Anything in gray is not in that student book, and that's something for the teacher, okay? So gray is for the teacher. This is what you both are seeing, right? So again, per day 1, you're going to read the fable, which goes from here. We haven't gotten to that part yet. This is just talking about Fabulous Fables. So I forgot, this is the introduction to this book, right? And you do read that to your student. You want them to understand what a fable is, why you're reading them, what a moral is, etc. And then when you get over here, so this is day 1 for every week. You're going to read the fable. So the first one is The Lion and the Mouse. And then once you read it, then you have your daughter read it, or your son. I've got a daughter, hence why I said that. So then they read it back, modeling your fluency that you used when you read it. Then that first day, you will do your narration. So you're going to tell it back. And then this is everything that your student will see in their workbook. I'll show it to you in a second. Then you're going to talk about it. So rhetoric, right? So the TE, it means it's the teacher edition. So here, the TE symbol indicates that there is more information in the teacher pages at the end of the lesson. So at the end of the lesson, okay, so here's at the end of the lesson, you see the TE. This is going to give you more insight into that portion that is highlighted TE. So the talk about it. So it's more information I would read prior to the lesson. So this is very open and go, but as a rule of thumb, what I would just do is I would check this out before starting the lesson, just so you have this information and you can talk about it with your child during the rhetoric today. So you'll talk about, the word fabulous comes from the Latin word fabula, go through it, all this. So what are some reasons a fable is fabulous or hard to believe? You're going to talk about it. There's no wrong or right answer. This is just good discussion-based questions, essentially. So you're going to go through all these, like the golden rule also seems like a fitting moral for this fable. Do you know the golden rule? And then you'll talk about it, right? This is the golden rule. So you do narration, you do comprehension, but also discussion, just understanding the text, what happened. And then for day 1, then you'll finish up with go deeper, this section. So this is something important that in the classical pedagogy, they want students from the beginning always use complete sentences. So in the student workbook, which I'll show in a second, there is a line here for them to write. Since you have the teacher edition, the gray part is the answer that something like that should be done. So here, for example, circle the one sentence in the fable, The Lion and the Mouse, that captures its main idea. So this is the sentence they should circle within their student notebook, so you can check that. Then we have a multiple choice question. Which proverb would best serve as a moral lesson of the fable? Circle the letter. So the student should theoretically circle D in their notebook. And this is something you can either have them do on their own, or you can, as a check to make sure that they're doing okay. Say, hey, I'm going to walk away. This is for you to do just to understand your comprehension of everything. And then there's a few more. That's day 1. That, when we did it, I think took about 20 minutes altogether. Because although the discussion questions are good, they're pretty straightforward. It's not going to create a 30-minute discussion around each, thought-provoking question. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. And then day 2, theoretically, we would open up our books again. I would have my daughter read the fable again to help with reading as well as fluency. And then she would do copy work in her notebook. Then we would do dictation. And here it has information about the different types of dictation. It even goes into a declarative statement, interrogative, imperative, and compound sentences. There's so much that's here, grammar-based, that you can go into with your student. Then it finishes up over here. You're going to do a little sentence play. So the lion laughed so hard that, and then your student is going to finish the sentence to make it something interesting, funny. I think my daughter put something crude, and I won't even repeat it. Well, maybe I should, because otherwise you're going to think the worst. I think she did for hers, the lion laughed so hard that he farted. She is 7, y'all. You will get sentences like that from 7-year-olds. But so there's this, and then there is the rewrite portion. So you're done there. I would talk about how she's going to rewrite the fable. So basically she had to pick in this situation different characters. So instead of the lion and the mouse, she had to pick another big animal and a small animal and come up with an idea of how she would rewrite the fable. I can't remember what she picked. It was like the flea and the rabbit or something, so the flea was supposed to be the mouse, the rabbit was supposed to be the lion. And then she rewrote, but it was a much shorter version of this. On the 3rd day, she rewrote it, and then she spoke it out loud to me. So she read the story to me and her sister. She got a kick out of it. So that would be a full week. So this is what it looks like in the student workbook. So same thing, you have your table of contents. It gives you the schedule for the week. It's all the same thing as my workbook. It even has this writing happily in there. So if your student wants to read this and can read this, let them, so they understand the why behind what they're doing in their writing program. What is the reason? It's not just some superfluous program. There is a reason behind it. So if they can read that, let them read it. And then here, this is where you would start the first week. See, that gray box that was in mine is not here. That's just for the teacher edition for me. So for her, she just sees this, and we would read this over, introducing this book the first week. And then of course I would read the fable, then she would read it back to me. And then here we would do some narration, oral narration. If you want them to write it down, you probably have to do a separate notebook for that because there's no lines for it here. Then we would do all the talk about it. But see, the TEs that were here before the teacher edition, those aren't there because this is the student edition. Then we would go deeper. So here, this is where she can do this by herself if she wants to. Circle the one sentence. So she would go into the actual fable here and circle the one sentence that captures that main idea. She would do it in here. She would circle the number. It was supposed to be D. Even the strong sometimes need the friendship of the weak. That's the moral of the lesson. And then here she would continue. She's got a multiple choice question. She has here, she's supposed to write something. Circle the adjective that describes the line. Why did you pick this? She's supposed to write why she circled that, etc. And then that would be it for the first day. And then day 2, she would come back in here. She would read the fable out loud to me. Then she would do the copy work here. They've given her the sentence. She would write it here on this line. I would do a dictation with her, and she would write it here in her notebook. She would do the sentence play, and then we would discuss how she would rewrite the fable. Again, day 2, I just talked about the idea with her. I think she wrote it down here like a flea and a rabbit. And then the next day for our 3rd day, she went ahead and wrote it. I think she might have started writing on it as well. And then she read it. So she finished the writing and then read it to me the 3rd day. So you see how it's a little different from the teacher notebook. So, but also at the same point, like I said, if you're trying to make ends, meet a little bit and you want to stretch this a little bit, you could easily do all the writing portion in a separate spiral notebook. I'm still unsure. I think I'm going to have her do it in here, but I'm not quite sure. I might have her do a spiral notebook. Maybe I will, just because I have a second kid. Maybe the second kid, I'll let them write in here. The second kid gets hand-me-downs, but every once in a while I get something fun, like a brand new clean book, and they get to write in it. That's exciting, right? So you could easily do a spiral notebook, or you could even copy these pages and create your own student workbook for your child. So, there's so many ways you could do this, or you could just go ahead and have your kiddo write in it and then have your second kid get a new notebook. But I'm really excited about this. I think this is a really good program. My daughter, when we did the sample that 1 week over spring break, she loved it. She's like, I'm starting this now, right? I was like, well, no, this is supposed to be for next school year, for 3rd grade. And she got bummed about it. She really liked it. So I think it holds your hand very well. I think there's a lot in it. There's grammar, there's vocab. There was in here even like they do it differently for every Fables, so it's not super boring. I mean, you are doing similar things every lesson, but they change it up a little bit. They change the questions up a little bit. There was even some Latin word roots in here at one point I saw with one of the lessons, which I thought was kind of cool, talking about vocabulary and definitions and things like that. So there's so much goodness in this program, and I'm so excited to use it with my daughter. So that's it. That's the Writing and Rhetoric Book 1 Fables. And if you guys like this, I will do a second one once we get halfway through the year and I buy narrative 1. I will go ahead and do a flip through of that for you guys as well. All right, y'all, so that is the Writing and Rhetoric program. I hope that was informative. I hope that it helped give you some clarity into whether or not it would be the right writing program for you and your learner moving forward. If you do have any questions about anything I discussed in this video, definitely leave that down in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer all of your questions. If you did enjoy this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you stick around, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.